Tonight on CTV3 News, Orange Walk resident Chrismar Espinosa is charged for the murder of Wilbert Banks Jr. It was all an act of jealousy, says Campo Williams. American national dies after she was hit in the head with a conch shell during a brawl at a bar in La Isla Bonita. But was the hit the cause of her demise? Two persons detained for shooting death of 29-year-old police officer Dylan Anthony, and Belizeans experience partial solar eclipse. These are some of the stories we have for you tonight in our newscast for Monday, April 8, 2024.
Rural High School, Ladyville Technical High School, San Pedro High School, Belmopan Comprehensive School, the biggest secondary school in the country, Mr. Speaker. The biggest secondary school, Belmopan Comprehensive School, bursting at the seams. Mopan Technical High School, Valley of Peace SDA Academy, Shunush San Viator Vocational High School, Escuela Secundaria Técnica Mexico, Belize High School of Agriculture, Orange Walk Technical High School, Bella Vista Government Secondary School, and Julian Cho Technical High School. So all across the country, and I have said to my colleagues, and I say it here to the Belizean people, this project is coming to every corner of our country.
The story of the Ministry of Agriculture, Food Security and Enterprise under the leadership of Honorable Jose Abelardo May is one of service to our farmers and to all productive sectors in the industry. That was not the case under the previous administration, when the rice mill in Big Falls closed production in 2015, resulting in a loss of employment for farmers and opportunities for economic growth in that district. All that changed in 2022, when the Big Falls rice mill was reopened by this administration. Thanks to the work of the ministry, through the Belize Marketing and Development Corporation, the mill is thriving, and in 2023 purchased 1.8 million pounds of paddy from 200 farmers in the Toledo district. That is real vision and real work. But even more than that, it is about looking out for our people. The Ministry of Agriculture, Food Security and Enterprise, moving forward with leadership that works for our farmers, for the industry, and for the nation.
The innovator in you with Dell. Cellular World is an authorized partner for Dell Technologies. Whether you're looking for equipment for personal use or to transform your business, Dell Technologies can provide you with the right equipment to suit your needs. Dell is more than just desktop computers and laptops. The full line also includes monitors, data storage solutions, keyboards, docking stations, and other accessories. This is technology that makes it possible and provides solutions for every situation. Shop for your Dell products at Cellular World, your #1 Dell authorized partner in Belize, and get all the technology you want for less. Bring your brightest ideas to life with intelligent technology. Cellular World, authorized Dell partner.
Good evening. With your news, also simulcast on Face FM 106.7. I am Joanna Rodriguez. Tonight, Orange Walk resident 34-year-old Chrismar Espinosa is once more behind bars after he was detained and charged for the Friday night murder of 38-year-old Wilbert Banks Jr. of Euphrates Avenue, Belize City. At around 11:30 p.m., Banks was driving on the Lake Gardens Road in Ladyville, Belize District late on Friday when a gunman apparently ambushed him and shot him several times, causing him to lose control of his vehicle and crash into a house. Banks was found in a slouched position inside his black and gray four-door Toyota RAV4 in the driver's seat with multiple gunshot injuries. Today, Commissioner of Police spoke to the media about the case and what evidence they have against Espinosa, who is no stranger to the law.
A search of the scene, police found a cell phone belonging to a woman. The woman was subsequently identified, and searches were conducted by the police in the Ladyville and Belize City area to locate the woman whose phone was found on the scene. The woman was subsequently found along with another male person who happened to be her common law husband, who has been identified as one Chrismar Espinosa. Chrismar Espinosa has been convicted of murder before, and on appeal, his murder conviction was reduced to manslaughter and recently got released from prison. It is our understanding through the investigation that prior to him going to prison, he was with the woman, and when he went to prison, she had an affair with the now deceased. And when he came out of prison, he got back with the woman, and Chrismar found out of her affair with the now deceased, and based on that, he went and committed the crime against Mr. Banks.
Based on the evidence, the motive for the murder is being pinned as an act of jealousy.
The murders we're seeing now, those acts of jealousies and those domestic types of murders are extremely difficult to prevent, because we don't know when a man is going to decide to go and kill the current boyfriend of his ex-girlfriend. It's difficult.
Sir, the evidence against Chrismar, what's the last name?
Espinosa.
Espinosa, can you speak to that?
I'm not going into details of the evidence, but we do have overwhelming evidence, yes, and I'll leave it at that.
Espinosa was arraigned in court today and remanded to prison. He appeared in court unrepresented and was read a single count of murder. His next court date is set for June 6th. Espinosa had previously been charged with murder in 2007 for the death of Rachel Chun in Orange Walk. He was ultimately convicted of manslaughter for that case and spent 9 years in prison. Banks was well known in the world of cycling as an assistant commentator for official race coverage for the Cycling Federation of Belize, along with Andrew Ordonez, most recently for the Holy Saturday Cross Country Cycling Classic. His brother died 2 years ago this month in an accident while on his way to cover the women's version of the event. Tonight, there is a road traffic accident to report. It happened minutes after 5 p.m. this evening on the Philip Wilson Highway. Our news team was on the scene shortly after the incident happened. When we arrived, the police were absent, as was the ambulance. This white van with Corozal license plate A6288 slammed into this cargo truck that was completely parked off the highway. We understand the cargo truck was stationed on the side of the road for about an hour. The truck was to be driven into the premises of Lano's store located opposite of the highway. One of the first responders to the accident spoke to us and told us how he assisted the driver of the white passenger van.
I was right here walking by this side to go to Lano's store to buy some parts for my lawnmower repairs, and I heard a bang. But I saw that truck was parked there. I saw a van crash into it. So like I'm an experienced health RTA worker for the Corozal Community Hospital for 11 years. So when I see accident like that, I know how to react, you know. So when I saw the guy behind the truck was crushed, suffocating of respiratory for the airbag into his chest and the seat against him, I approached the van. It's a white van, right? And he had watermelon inside the van, and he was just compressing his chest, which would give you a respiratory contraction that you cannot respirate, you know. And also the shock is confused. So my experience I use as a health worker for many years, I released the chair, pushed it away, and I took out the driver, and he was confused. So I took out the key of the driver, because he wanted to continue driving. So I took out the key, and I released him, and I counseled him, like, relax and sit down, you know. And I told him that you need attention of medical, because you think you're okay, but you're not okay. Sit down, and we're going to call the ambulance, but the ambulance have not reached us yet at this hour.
Who took him to the hospital?
Huh?
Who took him to the hospital?
Well, I told one of the family you need to take him because he had a little spit of blood. So you don't know if he have an internal bleeding or something, because the impact of an airbag and impact of chair or watermelon is heavy duty of impact, you know. You talk about tons.
Anywhere in his body else was visibly bleeding?
No. All a spill of blood, but I think I cannot see it till the physician, which is the doctor, will see that. Okay. I will not get in the doctor field, but I rescue him. I took out the key from him, I give it to the family, and I told him, don't worry about the watermelon, don't worry about the van, don't worry about the truck. Life is first, right? So I rescued him, guy was here, so thank God, I hope he lived.
While no one was inside the cargo truck, the driver of the van was injured. His identity is not known at the time, nor his medical status. An American national residing in the island of San Pedro is tonight dead after she was hit to the head with a conch shell during a fight and later passed away. Police reports suggest that at around 7 Saturday morning, 46-year-old Jennifer Lynn Griffith and her common-law husband, 41-year-old minor Rene Ancona, were at El Norte Bar 10 miles north of San Pedro town when they were involved in an altercation with an employee that led to a fight. Cops were on patrol when they came upon the altercation, and today, Commissioner of Police Chester Williams told the media what they know so far.
The police ended up detaining the persons who were involved. That includes an American woman who displayed injuries. She was taken to the police station along with the others, where she was issued with a medical form and subsequently taken to the San Pedro Polyclinic for treatment, while the other persons were detained at the police station pending investigation. It is my understanding that prior to the brawl, the lady was on a golf cart along with her husband, and they collided into a building with the golf cart, during which she may have also hit her head, and that it was that collision that eventually led to the brawl. And during that brawl, she was also stoned with a conch shell, which also caused her head injuries. She went to the polyclinic with the police, and she refused medical treatment and self-discharged herself from the clinic and went home. The next day morning, she seemingly was having pain, and she went back to the clinic, where she succumbed.
While police have detained two individuals in connection with the death of Griffith, her exact cause of death is yet to be revealed.
So I spoke to the director of the National Forensic Service this morning and had requested that the post-mortem examination be expedited. And so it will be done first thing tomorrow morning. Once that is done, then we should be able to ascertain a cause of death, and then we will be able to consult with the DPP for guidance in terms of what charge or charges to be levied on those persons who are involved in the brawl with her.
The number of people who are detained, it is an employee who stole that puncture?
I'm not sure if it's an employee, but one of the persons who are involved in the brawl.
So multiple people?
There were a few persons involved, yes, but I think one person threw the conch shell.
So if it is that the accident caused her death, likely nobody can be charged?
The husband can be charged then,
Okay.
yes. Mm-hmm.
But if it is the conch shell that caused her death, then that's a manslaughter charge as well?
More than likely manslaughter, yes.
It was the husband who was driving?
Yes. I cannot say what extent of injury she sustained from either the accident or the conch shell, but she did get injured from both, and so we need to get the result of the postmortem to ascertain cause of death.
We understand that after the scuffle, Griffith was taken to the Ambergris Hope Hospital, where a doctor treated her injuries and observed a fracture on her head. The doctor advised Griffith to undergo an X-ray and CT scan, but she refused and discharged herself from the hospital. On Sunday, around 12:15 a.m., Griffith returned to the hospital and received treatment for cut wounds behind her head, but refused further medical attention. Authorities say later that day at about 10:30 a.m., Griffith was rushed to the hospital where she was pronounced dead on arrival. We understand that prior to releasing herself from the hospital, Griffith told cops she wanted no court action. Tonight, two persons are expected to be charged for the shooting death of 29-year-old police officer Dylan Anthony. PC Anthony, as we had reported, was shot and killed while driving his motorcycle in the community of Camalote in the Cayo district back in March. His death shocked the entire community and raised an all-out investigation by the police department, who were desperate to bring his killers to justice. After gathering enough evidence, Compole Chester Williams says the department is expecting a conviction in this case, which saw the fall of one of their own.
Investigation involving the shooting death of Dylan Anthony, police constable, was ongoing. We were interviewing a number of persons with the hope of getting sufficient evidence to be able to not just charge, but maybe even eventually securing a conviction upon trial. And so we were able to gather enough, and based on that, today 2 persons will be arrested and charged for the crime of murder in respect to PC Anthony's murder. One of those persons is Mr. Hugh Milton, and the other one is a guy, Gideon, I can't remember the first name right now. From our investigation, it tells us that Gideon was the driver of the motorcycle and Milton was the pillion rider, and the one who executed the act upon PC Milton. So both of them will be charged today.
A total solar eclipse crossed over North America and parts of Central America today. It is an event that happens rarely when the moon actually passes between the sun and the earth, causing a total blockade of the sun's light on the earth. This time around, Mexico was the first country to begin to experience a solar eclipse that began around 11:07 this morning. In Belize, not much was seen, but data shows that the country saw a 40% solar eclipse today.
All right, from my own observation, and I certainly don't have the specialized equipment to go out there and look at the sun, so I did not do that. But I want to say that from my own observation, it got a bit darker. I think it wasn't that significant as I had predicted, or as we had mentioned, I believe before, that it was a 40% occlusion for this particular eclipse, a partial eclipse. So we didn't expect it to even be as dark as the one that we had in October last year, which had more obstruction or occlusion. So certainly it wasn't as dark as that one. And I think, unfortunately for residents in my area, I don't know about where the entire country, but certainly in Belize City, even the Ladyville area, it was a bit cloudy. So certainly if you had the specialized sunglasses to go there and look at it, it may have been a bit disappointing because for the most part, it was a bit cloudy. So that's what I would say. I don't know. I haven't heard the comments coming from different persons, but certainly that's what I saw personally.
Coming up next, SIB launches census data. We'll bring you the numbers and we'll tell what we can expect from the upcoming hurricane season. Stay tuned.
Shop smart for your Samsung devices in Belize and enjoy benefits you won't get anywhere else. When you shop locally for your Samsung, all your devices will be covered by a 1-year local warranty. You won't get that when shopping with the other guys. When in doubt, always look for the Cellular World seal to know you're getting the real deal. Shop with confidence and enjoy your Galaxy knowing that it can be repaired locally at our Samsung Service Center by certified Samsung technicians using original parts and machinery. Even better, enjoy the best LTE experience in Belize, knowing that your Samsung devices are compatible with major local carrier networks. Get the ultimate Samsung Galaxy experience only when you shop from authorized Samsung resellers nationwide.
One day, we decided to gather everyone who loves The Last of Us in one place. The naked and afraid fans, and well, everyone who loves realities. The ones who don't like spoilers, and the ones who do. And those who love Barbie and Peppa Pig. That place is called Max. Well, it's not an actual place. It's on your screens, and there's room for everyone. Max is here to bring you more of the stories that you love. Max, the one to watch.
The Atlantic hurricane season 2024 is already the topic of discussion in many households, especially since the Colorado State University in the USA is predicting 23 named storms this season. Thought it's still early to tell if that will turn out to be real. Their information is usually accurate. Today, Ronald Gordon, Chief Meteorologist at the Belize Met Service, spoke about what we can expect this year during what is being categorized as an extremely active season.
As you rightly mentioned, Jules, the forecast from Colorado State University has been issued, and they are predicting a very, very active 2024 Atlantic hurricane season. If my memory serves me right, the figures that they issued are for 23 named storms, 11 hurricanes, and about 5 major hurricanes. That forecast is, of course, early, it's preliminary. We're in April, and from what we have seen in the past, there is some limited skills to those early season forecasts. Notwithstanding that, CSQ has indicated that they have an above normal confidence in this particular forecast. And the reason for this, of course, is because the predictors are suggesting that it's going to be quite active. So we have said this before, but it's worth repeating. The two main contributing factors to activity in the Atlantic Basin are, one, how warm the Atlantic itself is in terms of the sea surface temperatures, and two, whether we are having El Nino, La Nina, or neutral conditions. So for those two factors, the Atlantic Basin is very, very warm. It's above average. It's quite very much above average for this time of the year. So that means there's a lot of energy there for these systems to develop and intensify. Secondly, the other factor that I mentioned is El Nino, La Nina. We are expecting that by the peak of the hurricane season, the 2024 hurricane season, we would have transitioned from El Nino to La Nina. And that means that there will be less vertical wind shear. Again, I've said this before, but to educate people, vertical wind shear means how much difference there is between the wind at one level, the lower levels, and the higher levels. So if these winds are quite different and coming from different direction, it means that your tropical cyclones cannot intensify because there is that disruptive force. The top of these thunderstorms are torn apart, thereby reducing the possibility for intensification. That's when you have El Nino. When you have La Nina now, the vertical wind shear is less. Therefore, you have that possibility for systems to become better organized and intensify and become major hurricanes and so forth.
But what does it mean for Belize, whose hurricane season begins on June 1st every year?
Whenever you have the odds of a higher than normal season, therefore, it would indicate that the odds for us are also higher than normal, that one could come our way. So we know that the 23 named storms that are predicted, all of them will not come here, or they will not go in one direction, right? That's a prediction for the entire basin. However, because we know that it's a super active season, then the odds of us having one is increased. The figures that I had from CSU as well is that the typical average for us getting a named storm within 50 miles of our coastline, on average is 42%. This year is at 60%. So there's a higher probability that there's a storm coming nearer to us. And one thing I failed to mention in terms of the total numbers, what is the average? The average is for there to be 14 named storms. Of those 14, 7 typically become hurricanes, and 3 of those become major hurricanes. And that's an average over the last 30 years from 1991 to 2020.
However, though the predictions cannot ascertain reality, it can pretty much gauge what a hurricane season may look like. In Belize in recent years, 3 major cyclones have impacted its people and government. In 2010, Hurricane Richard made impact in Belize. 7 years later, in 2017, Hurricane Earl left its mark on the jewel. The most recent in the books of history is Hurricane Lisa, which ravaged through the old capital in 2022. Bottom line is, Belizeans should always be prepared for a hurricane, says the chief meteorologist Ronald Gordon.
Yeah, that would be average, Jules. So certainly I wouldn't advise residents to take any consolation from that. We know that when you average systems out, it doesn't mean that it's going to follow that particular average every time. So because we typically have every 6 years and we had Lisa in 2022, that certainly is not any reason for our residents to become complacent and say that, well, it won't happen again until maybe 2027. No, none at all. We need to be prepared each year because the possibility for one coming our way is the same each year, whether we had one last year or not. So the laws of averages doesn't mean that you have to wait for that particular period for there to be another one. Certainly, I believe from my own personal professional opinion, based on the current trend, indeed the forecast seems to be the case that we'll have a very active season. Again, I must repeat, because we're going to have a very active season does not necessarily indicate that one will come our way. The odds, of course, are higher that one could come closer to us, but then it doesn't mean necessarily that one will make landfall. Likewise, if it was, the prediction was for an inactive season, again, it doesn't mean that one won't come our way. So certainly the advice to residents is always to be prepared, regardless of what the forecast is, what the prediction is, and also to take note that these predictions do not in any way give an indication of where these storms will go and when at this point in time. These are seasonal predictions. They are made for a purpose, for us to raise our level of alert, to make certain preparations, and that's it. Now, in terms of the weather time scale, that is when we actually forecast these systems. They have actually developed, one of them has actually formed, and then the computer models basically tell us more or less where it will go. And as we get closer to landfall, we pinpoint more or less where it will make landfall, and that's the way our forecast works. So again, seasonal prediction does not tell us exactly where or when a particular storm will develop or go.
And since Belize is prone to storms, how well equipped are we to forecast way beforehand the details of the threat? This question was posed to Gordon since in the past the country had experienced issues with one of its radars.
Well, currently, of course, we have various tools at our disposal. You mentioned the radar, of course, that's working. that's up and running for the past, I would say, 2 to 3 years. So we haven't had much interruption in terms of that particular instrument. And we are, of course, working very closely to ensure that it's serviced and operating for this hurricane season that is coming up on June the 1st. So that tool is there. And of course, there are various other tools at our disposal, including, of course, the forecast models. We have our network of automatic weather stations. We have different systems like our lightning detection system and so forth that we use combinedly to issue these forecasts. And of course, we have our very good and reliable agency up north that is tasked by the World Meteorological Organization to provide that type of support to this region, which is the National Hurricane Center. So of course, we will rely on them to fly into these systems and give us precisely the location and the track of these systems so that we can adequately prepare at the local level.
While the hurricane season in Belize begins on June 1st and ends on November 30th each year, it is advisable to begin to structure a hurricane plan for your family and business in the case that Belize should be threatened by one of nature's most destructible events. A census of the population and households is conducted by the Statistical Institute of Belize in conjunction with its government partners once every 10 years. The exercise is designed to provide detailed and accurate count of the population and households in our country. The SIB began the latest census back in 2022, and today the data from that exercise was officially revealed during an event in Belize City. Following the 2010 census, the country was expected to have repeated the exercise in 2020. However, due to issues brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic, the census was started in 2022 and lasted for approximately 8 months. After months of analyzing the gathered data, the SIB today launched its results, which showed a growth in the overall population and households across the country.
So in 2010, there were 79,658 households in the country. In 2022, that number increased by almost 40% to 110,719 households. When we look at household heads by age group, the largest share of household heads, almost 1/4, were between 35 to 44 years, while the smallest share were ages 15 to 24. The average age of household heads was 46 years, which was up from the 44 years that we saw in 2010. We had about 2/3 of households that were headed by a male, which was down from 72.3% in 2010. Conversely, the proportion of female-headed households increased from 27.7% in 2010 to 1/3 of all households in 2022. In looking at the average size of households by district, the average household size decreased nationally from 4 persons in 2010 to 3.6 persons in 2022. We observe this trend across all the districts.
With the increase in population and households across the country, the 2022 census also saw major increases in areas of asset ownership and access to amenities when compared to 2010.
With respect to the ownership of assets, more households in 2022 owned stoves, cell phones, washing machines, and refrigerators compared to 2010. However, we saw that ownership of televisions, stereos or radios, and microwaves decreased between the two censuses. In terms of access to services, more than half of all households in 2010 reported that they had cable TV or satellite services. 12 years later, however, that number dwindled drastically to only 1 in 5 households reporting that they had cable TV. Similarly, in 2010, we found that over 20% of households reported that they had a fixed telephone line. However, in 2022, less than 5% of households had this service. Conversely, we saw that internet access increased significantly, as more than 70% of households reported that they had internet access in 2022, compared to only 13.6% in 2010.
In addition to the overall increase in population across the country in 2022 census also highlights key changes noted with the population, including a fall in the overall fertility of Belizeans in most municipalities, which, according to Financial Secretary Joseph Waite, has changed the dynamics within the aging population in Belize.
Even while our population continues to grow, there have been considerable changes in the structure and composition since 2010. Steadily declining fertility rates have slowed population growth. This, coupled with increased life expectancies, means that Belize is beginning to see a change in its age structure, with all its implications for productivity and our ability to provide support to our population in the future as the population ages. With greater access to education and employment, younger persons are increasingly availing themselves of these opportunities while also delaying starting of families of their own. Household sizes have gotten smaller across the country, while housing conditions have improved, with more households having access to safe drinking water, electricity, and other basic services. We also see changes in religious affiliations, especially among younger persons, and as migration patterns evolve within the region, we see these shifts reflected in our own foreign-born population. Time and development advances will continue to shape our country in these and countless other ways. Our ability to effectively track, measure, and plan for these changes will only be as good as the data we have at our disposal. The population and housing census, with all its complexity and with all its challenges it brings, remains our most valuable source of this type of information. The government of Belize, along with other stakeholders and data users, look forward to the insights to be gained as we unpack the results of the 2020-22 census today and in the months ahead.
The crucial data coming from the latest population and household census, according to the FinSec, will help the government and other policymakers in key areas within the country's economy.
Data from the census will be used to guide decisions on where additional roads, schools, health facilities, and the list goes on, are needed, and to identify communities where there is a need for expanded water and electricity connections. It is therefore of utmost importance that the data produced is both nationally relevant and of the highest quality possible. As a result of rapid technological advances in recent years, which the SIB was able to leverage with the support of government and its various other partners, the 2022 census saw the introduction of several innovations that vastly improved the way in which it was conducted and managed. It was the first census in which data was collected by tablets using electronic questionnaires, a considerable step forward from paper-based data collection used in previous rounds. It was also the first in which geospatial data was collected for each household, allowing the Institute to better monitor the progress of data collection in near real time, and allowing for data analysis to be done at more detailed geographic levels than ever before. Enhanced quality control measures were also implemented, including the use of a team approach to data collection, with improved underground supervision and an integrated suite of census management applications developed in-house by the SIB.
The full 2022 population and household census can be viewed at the SIB website. After several months of analysis, the Statistical Institute of Belize, SIB, today released the results of the 2022 population and household census, which shows that the overall national population currently stands at 397,483, which is an increase from the total which was seen in 2010 census of 322,424. This data, according to CEO in the Ministry of Economic Development, Dr. Osborne Martinez, will help police to portray accurate representation in various areas, including foreign benefits to the country.
So, for example, when you look at IDA's eligibility, which the World Bank recently approved for police, and which that publication will be out pretty soon, the country's benefit is based on population. Okay, so that's one point. Two is like debt to GDP. So the IMF will use it. What is the debt to GDP, the income per capita, inequality. Also, it helps us to look at the population in terms of how many young people are there that needs to be educated. So, for example, one of the most expensive investments and one of those that have the biggest return is education. And it's expensive because from the time of a child's starting to go into school to the time they graduate with a bachelor's degree or a master's is almost 20 to 22 years of investments that a nation will have to do. So those are some of the examples that we can look at. Another example would be with MCC. For example, we are looking at the Millennium Challenge Corporation, which we are heading to Washington, D.C. next week to close that negotiation, which will be at $250 million. But again, it's tied, it's a grant money, and that is tied again into countries' population, because other countries that are bigger, they have gotten more money. So in this case, it do help. And some times, for example, like the Korean Economic Development Fund, which their eligibility is based on X amount of people that should be on a country. And so because Belize's population was below that threshold, actually the president of Korea was the one who approved it directly. So, but there are so many criteria where population and all the macroeconomic indicators play a major role, and that's how we can use it to bring funds into our country, especially grants.
One area which CEO Martinez says has raised some concern is the negative indicators, including a rise in the population in the Stann Creek district, while the Corozal district showed the lowest population increase.
I'm really concerned about the high population per house or persons per house in the Toledo district, which has the highest. When you look at the Toledo district, it has the highest in all the negative indicators. And that's of high concern. But my second one, which is a little bit very interested, and even it can be a little bit funny, depends on how the audience look at it, but fertility, you know, whereby our population is decreasing, and Stann Creek District was the only one whose population is actually increasing. But note that we have received the data. The most important thing is to note that this is not the end, but it's the beginning, because then we have to dive down into understanding the data now and say, okay, so why did the population grow in Stann Creek District? Why is it that Corozal has the lowest population growth in the last 10 years, and understand the why? So the findings of data helps into understanding the whys, and also to introduce macroeconomic policies that will be more efficient and effective using our limited resources.
In relation to the migrant population entering our country, CEO Martinez says there is much to be considered, since Belize is increasingly looking to import seasonal workers in the areas of agriculture and construction, which are lacking in our own population.
No, the hiring of people is more formal. So if you ask the Ministry of Labor, for example, they have been creating a mechanism in place whereby we can import the labor force to participate in the agro-productive sector and the construction sector. If I'm not wrong, just a few days you had an interview with this cement factory, you know, who produce cement, cement blocks, no? And there is no workers to work on that field. And if you look at my speech, I actually highlighted the service sector, the BPOs and and the tourism sector are boosting and are their numbers are better off than where it was in 2019. So it has attracted young people, young educated people who are well rewarded in terms of their salary. So they don't want to go and work in the construction sector or the agro-productive sector. So the citrus, banana, the sugar industry continue to face challenges year after year. And so there is an importation of hundreds and hundreds of workers every year. So for example, in 2022, there were 21,000 workers that were imported from Central America so that they can continue to contribute to our economy through the agro-productive and construction sector.
Do we need to?
Earth Day is a yearly event that happens on April 22nd. It is done worldwide to garner support for environmental protection. Since 1970, the event took front stage globally, and conservationists and environmentalists have rallied for change and sensitization on the importance of preserving our resources. This year, the event is being celebrated under the theme of Planet versus Plastics. In Corozal, a collaboration between entities will lead to Earth Day 2024.
It is our duty to help protect our resources, right? Which is why we are celebrating our day with other entities to help have an impact on the waterways, what we normally call drains. This year's theme for our day is Planet versus Plastics, and so we're trying to remove all the debris that's found within our drain systems before the rains come, before there's a flood of these items into the bay, because at the end of the day, our drains, our Tong municipal drains, end up flowing into our bay. So we want to target and remove those debris before they end up in our bay, because at the end of the day, it's our bay, it's what we utilize, and it's what Belizeans have access to.
And Earth Day will be celebrated this year when, and what's the program looking like for that day?
So this year, Earth Day is celebrated on, or every year actually, it's celebrated on 22nd April. And so this year, we're going to have a cleanup, a waterway cleanup on Sunday the 21st, because, you know, everybody works Monday, so we're going to have an event this Sunday so that much more people can participate. And like I said, what we want to do is to remove debris from the waterways, or what we call it choros, so that whenever the rains come, they are free and they flow freely into the bay. We have what we call trash poles, so that people don't really have to go into the drain, so they can target the trash from the inside, and they can also go along the edge to remove what debris is close that can be falling into the drain, right? So you can reach out, contact me directly, 673-3316. So that they want to participate, because there's two main choros that we want to target. The one that passes by what we call Lanos, runs from White and runs from White Cocal as well, and joins here by a mechanic shop. And then the other one that empties around Rainbow Beach. That one comes from the Civic area and also up by Chula Vista area. So those two main choros are the ones that we want to target, because they're the ones that are mostly always flowing.
Rivera says that safeguarding a green earth for our generations to come should be of utmost importance. For this reason, small development in Corozal is important.
So throughout the year, we engage schools, youth groups, and other stakeholders to teach them about the environment, protection, about our resources. And we also advocate for the ridge to reef concept, because whatever happens in land flows over into our reef, right? So management of our resources starts inland. And so we have advocated for marine protection and environmental protection throughout the year, not only Earth Day, but we do celebrate Earth Day because it's a day dedicated to the environment, right? Like every day should be dedicated for the environment. But this specific day, every year, many groups come together and try to have an impact on the environment. Some do tree planting, some do activities to raise awareness, and we join those efforts, right? And that's the day that we try to liaise with other entities and other stakeholders to collaborate and have a significant event. Development shouldn't take from our environment. We have always advocated for sustainable development. They don't need to be at odds. It's something that should not overpower the other, right? We want development, but if it's done in a sustainable way, we don't have to sacrifice the environment.
And anyone can take part in the activities for Earth Day 2024. Rivera can be reached at telephone number 673-3316 for more information. The Corozal Town Council will be in charge of picking up the garbage collected to later properly dispose of it. The next general election is expected to take place in a little more than a year from now in 2025. Now, while there has not been an official naming of candidates from either of the major political parties, those names are expected to be revealed soon. With the election fast approaching, the CEO in the Ministry of Economic Development, Dr. Osmond Martinez, says he may be interested in entering the political arena in Toledo West.
Well, it's not a decision as yet. You know, there is a process that any person who wants to run for politics will have to go through. One of those is that you have to submit an application to the National Party Council. The National Party Council will have to accept you. So for now, I am the CEO of the Ministry of Economic Development. When the time comes to submit an application, I will submit an application. But for now, I'm just the CEO. I am not an official person who is running. But yes, I will submit an application. What I have done is I have just tested the social medias, and I am really impressed that I was well received in my home, which the places where I grow within the banana farms and Bella Vista Village. I used to play football in Punta Gorda with JV United. I played semi-pro with them. We won the B-League national championship. So I was I have been very welcome. But no, at no time we're playing politics at this time. At the contrary, I'm doing tours to see what are the needs of the people. And so that's what I'm doing at this present time.
And that's the news. We invite you to join us for another newscast on Tuesday, April 9th here on CTV3 and Fiesta FM 106.7. Remember that to read a text version of the news, you can visit our website at CTV3BelizeNews.com. You can also log on to our Facebook page for current stories at Facebook.com/CTV3BelizeNews or our YouTube channel at CTV3 News BZ. Remember to wash your hands and remain safe. From all of us here at CTV3 News, thank you for watching and listening. Good night.